10 countries where Australians are not welcome. Picture this. You've saved up for months, planned the perfect overseas adventure, only to be turned away at the border or face hostility simply because of your Australian passport. Shocking, right? What if I told you there are countries around the world where Australians face serious restrictions, cultural tensions, or outright bans? Today, we're revealing the 10 countries where Australians might not receive the warm welcome they expect. Travel restrictions and diplomatic tensions can turn dream destinations into nightmares for Australian travelers. Before we begin, hit that like button and subscribe for more eye-opening travel content. Number 10. Myanmar. Myanmar's military coup has created a dangerous landscape for all foreign visitors, especially Westerners. Since the 2021 military takeover, Myanmar has become increasingly hostile to Western nations, including Australia. The country's political instability has created an environment where Australians face significant safety risks and potential detention. Here's something that might shock you. Myanmar's military junta views Western tourists with deep suspicion, often considering them potential spies or political agitators. The Australian government has issued its strongest travel warning, advising citizens to avoid all travel to Myanmar. Foreign journalists and aid workers have been arrested without warning, and the military regime has shown particular hostility toward countries that have imposed sanctions, which includes Australia. The consequences of ignoring this reality could be imprisonment in notoriously harsh conditions, with limited consular access. What makes this even more concerning is that Myanmar was once a popular destination for Australian backpackers exploring Southeast Asia. But Myanmar isn't the only Asian nation where Australians should think twice. Number 9. North Korea. North Korea remains one of the most restrictive destinations on Earth for Australian citizens. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea maintains extremely limited diplomatic relations with Australia and views Western visitors with intense scrutiny and suspicion. You might be surprised to learn that while tourism to North Korea isn't completely impossible for Australians, it comes with extraordinary restrictions and risks. Every movement is monitored, every conversation recorded, and any perceived slight against the regime can result in immediate detention. Remember Otto Warmbier. While he was American, his tragic fate serves as a stark reminder of what can happen to Western tourists. Australian visitors must join approved tour groups, follow scripted itineraries, and face the constant possibility of being used as political pawns in diplomatic disputes. The isolation and unpredictability of the regime means that if something goes wrong, the Australian government's ability to help is severely limited. The question you should ask yourself is any tourist experience worth risking years in a North Korean prison? Speaking of diplomatic tensions, our next country might surprise you with its changing attitude toward Australians. Number 8. Russia. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has dramatically shifted its relationship with Western nations, making it increasingly unwelcoming for Australian visitors. Escalating sanctions, diplomatic expulsions, and anti-Western sentiment have created a hostile environment for Australians in Russia. Here's what many Australians don't realize. Russia now considers Australia an unfriendly nation due to sanctions and military support for Ukraine. This designation isn't just political theatre. It has real consequences for travelers. Australian citizens face increased surveillance, potential harassment by authorities, and the risk of being detained on spurious charges as bargaining chips in diplomatic negotiations. The Russian government has made it clear that Western visitors, especially from countries supporting Ukraine, are unwelcome. Flight connections have been severed, credit cards don't work, and the Australian embassy's ability to provide assistance has been severely compromised. What's particularly troubling is that Russia has a history of arresting foreign nationals on fabricated espionage charges, and Australians wouldn't be exempt from this treatment. But sometimes, the hostility toward Australians isn't just political, it can be deeply cultural. Number 7. Afghanistan. Under Taliban rule, Afghanistan has become one of the most dangerous places on Earth for Western visitors, with Australians facing extreme hostility. The Taliban's return to power has created an environment of religious extremism and anti-Western sentiment that puts Australian lives at serious risk. You need to understand this harsh reality. Afghanistan under Taliban control is not just unwelcoming to Australians, it's potentially deadly. The Taliban views Western nations, particularly those involved in the 20-year military campaign, with deep hostility and suspicion. Australian citizens face the risk of kidnapping, torture, or execution simply for their nationality and perceived cultural values. The country has no functioning legal system that would protect foreign visitors, and the Taliban has shown little regard for international diplomatic norms. Women travelers face additional severe restrictions and dangers under Taliban rule. Perhaps most chilling is that the Australian government has no diplomatic presence in Afghanistan and virtually no ability to assist citizens who find themselves in trouble. The question isn't whether Australians are unwelcome, it's whether they can survive. While Afghanistan's dangers are obvious, some countries' hostility toward Australians is more subtle but equally concerning. Number 6. Iran's theocratic regime, and Australia's strong ties with Israel and the United States make it a risky destination for Australian passport holders. Diplomatic tensions, arbitrary detention of foreign nationals, and Iran's practice of hostage diplomacy create significant risks for Australian visitors. Here's something that might shock you about Iran. Despite its rich cultural heritage and tourism potential, the Islamic Republic has increasingly used foreign visitors as political pawns. Australians face particular scrutiny due to Australia's alliance with the United States and support for Israel. The Iranian regime has a documented history of arresting dual nationals and foreign visitors on vague charges of espionage or acting against national security. What makes this especially dangerous for Australians is that Iran doesn't recognize dual citizenship, meaning Iranian Australians have no consular protection once inside the country. The judicial system lacks transparency and due process, and detainees often face months or years of imprisonment without proper legal representation. The reality is that visiting Iran as an Australian means accepting the risk of becoming an unwilling participant in international diplomatic negotiations. Sometimes, the reasons Australians aren't welcome go beyond current politics to historical grievances. Number 5. Pakistan's security concerns, religious extremism, and anti-Western sentiment make Pakistan increasingly dangerous for Australian travellers. Terrorist threats, kidnapping risks, and religious tensions create a hostile environment where Australians are viewed with suspicion and targeted for their Western identity. You might not realize how dangerous Pakistan has become for Western tourists, but the statistics are alarming. Australian citizens face significant risks from both terrorist organizations and common criminals who specifically target Westerners for kidnapping and ransom. Religious extremist groups view Australians as representatives of Western values they oppose, making them prime targets for violence. The country's security situation is so unstable that even diplomatic staff operate under severe restrictions. What's particularly concerning is that local authorities often lack the capability or willingness to protect foreign visitors, especially in rural areas where extremist influence is strong. Australian travellers have faced harassment, detention, and worse simply for their nationality and perceived religious beliefs. The question you need to ask is, in a country where your passport makes you a target, is any experience worth the risk to your safety and life? But it's not just security concerns that make Australians unwelcome. Sometimes it's about economic and political disagreements. Number 4. China escalating tensions over trade, human rights, and territorial disputes have made China increasingly hostile toward Australian visitors and residents. Arbitrary detention laws, surveillance state apparatus, and diplomatic retaliation have created an environment where Australians face significant risks and restrictions. Here's what many Australians don't understand about travelling to China today. The honeymoon period is over, and the risks are real and growing. China's national security law allows authorities to detain foreign nationals for virtually any reason deemed threatening to state security, and Australians have already been targeted under these broad definitions. The Chinese government has shown willingness to use arbitrary detention as a diplomatic weapon, as seen in cases involving Canadian citizens and others. What makes this particularly dangerous for Australians is China's sophisticated surveillance system that tracks every movement, every communication, and every contact you make. Business travellers, journalists, and even tourists have found themselves interrogated, detained, or banned from leaving the country. The Australian government's ability to provide consular assistance is severely limited, especially for dual citizens whom China considers only Chinese nationals. The uncomfortable truth is that your Australian passport might make you more of a target than a protection in modern China. While China's hostility is relatively recent, some countries have maintained long-standing tensions with Australia. Number 3. Venezuela. Venezuela's socialist regime and economic collapse have created a dangerous environment where Australians face significant security risks and government hostility. Political instability, economic crisis, and anti-Western sentiment from the Maduro regime create serious dangers for Australian visitors. You need to understand something crucial about Venezuela. This isn't just about avoiding pickpockets or tourist scams. This is about survival in a failed state. The Maduro regime views Western nations with deep suspicion and hostility, particularly countries that have imposed sanctions or recognized opposition leaders. Australians face risks from both government persecution and criminal elements that the state can no longer control. Kidnapping rates are among the highest in the world, with foreigners being prime targets due to perceived wealth. The economic collapse has made basic services unreliable, medical care dangerous, and even food and water unsafe. What's particularly alarming is that the Venezuelan government has a history of arbitrarily detaining foreign nationals on trumped-up charges, and the Australian embassy's ability to provide assistance is severely limited. The question isn't whether you'll face problems in Venezuela, it's whether you'll make it out safely. As we approach our top 2 countries, the reasons for hostility become even more intense and personal. Number 2. Somalia. Somalia's status as a failed state controlled by warlords and terrorist organizations makes it one of the most dangerous places on earth for any foreigner, especially Westerners like Australians. Complete absence of law and order, active terrorist presence, and targeted hostility toward Western nationals create extreme dangers for any Australian who enters the country. Here's the brutal truth about Somalia that every Australian needs to understand. This isn't a country where you're merely unwelcome. It's a place where your Australian identity could be a death sentence. Al-Shabaab and other terrorist organizations actively hunt Western nationals for kidnapping, ransom, and execution. The country has no functioning government in many regions, no reliable security forces, and no infrastructure to support foreign visitors. What makes this particularly terrifying for Australians is that Western hostages are often used in propaganda videos before being killed, and there's virtually no chance of rescue or negotiation. Even aid workers and journalists with armed security face constant life-threatening situations. The Australian government has no diplomatic presence and no ability to provide any assistance whatsoever. Pirates, warlords, and terrorists all view Australian citizens as valuable targets, whether for ransom, political statements, or simply because of anti-Western hatred. The reality is stark. Entering Somalia as an Australian is potentially suicidal. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. The number 1 country where Australians are most unwelcome. Number 1. Yemen. Yemen's devastating civil war, terrorist control, and complete collapse of government make it the most dangerous and unwelcoming place on earth for Australian citizens. Active war zone conditions, terrorist organization control, humanitarian crisis, and complete absence of any protection for foreign nationals create unsurvivable conditions for Australians. Prepare yourself for this shocking reality. Yemen isn't just unfriendly to Australians, it's a death trap where survival is nearly impossible for any Westerner. The country is in the grip of a devastating civil war with multiple factions, including Iranian-backed Houthis, who have explicitly threatened Western nations. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP, controls significant territory and actively hunts foreign nationals for kidnapping and execution. What makes Yemen the absolute worst destination for Australians is the complete breakdown of civilization. There's no government, no law enforcement, no medical care, and no infrastructure. Australian citizens would face immediate targeting by multiple terrorist organizations, warring factions who might use them as human shields, and criminal gangs operating without any legal constraints. The humanitarian crisis means even basic survival resources like food, water, and shelter are unavailable. The Australian government has no presence, no ability to provide assistance, and no way to even confirm if citizens are alive or dead. The most terrifying aspect is that in Yemen, your Australian passport isn't just unwelcome. It's essentially a target painted on your back in one of the world's most dangerous active war zones. These 10 countries represent the harsh reality that Australian citizenship doesn't guarantee a warm welcome everywhere. From diplomatic tensions to active war zones, these destinations pose serious risks to Australian travelers. What do you think about these countries? Have you had experiences traveling as an Australian that surprised you? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video eye-opening, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more travel reality content. Click the bell icon to get notified when we release our next video about travel safety.